We will talk today about the listing. The reason, and it's for those of you who are with us almost every week, and thank you for that. Uh, the listing is the most important task that an agent can take upon himself. For those of you who joined me last week for Mike Ferry, you definitely pay attention that Mike is talking only about listing, 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 listing. Um, Buyers is nice and it's 50% of the market, but when you have listings, you basically control your business. You control your inventory, you control your destiny. It does a lot of good things because one listing leads to another, and so on and so on. Also, when you get the listing, you can double end. When you have a buyer, you cannot double end. Everybody hear me well because this is I'm broadcasting today from Granada Hills from my laptop. I hope yes, thank you, Irma. Appreciate that. So let's get going. We're going to talk today about out a little few things about out, what do we do, the right things we do when we get the listing, and then we'll talk about the actual listing agreement. Okay, so let's rock and roll. So when we go and get try to get listing, we have to remember that we have to pre-qualify the seller, the potential seller, 100% of all time. Anytime that we're not going to do the pre-qualification for the seller, we're going to waste time, we're going to waste energy and positive energy, and it's not going to be good for us. So the more we pre-qualify the seller, the better chances we have to get the listing agreement. What does it mean pre-qualified? It means that we have number one, we have to figure out the seller's motivation to sell. If the seller is contacting you or you prospecting a potential seller, if you're not going to find out exactly the motivation, you might be wasting time, do a lot of follow-ups, but and many times you're going to spend money, and but you're not going to be able to get the signature because they are not ready. So they always have to find out, ask the questions. When are you planning to move? That's a fundamental question. Don't be shy to ask this question. It's so important that you're going to ask these questions. When are you planning to move? Where are you planning to move? What are your plans? Once you know all this, you know the seller's motivation, and also is going to help you when you have objections from the sellers to sign the listing agreement today or to sign with you, or maybe even in the negotiation about the price. When you know the seller's motivation, you basically have a very important piece of information that first will get you to touch the right buttons with the seller's emotional motivation. And second, when you get to the negotiation, you will have some leverage about knowing where the seller and how much the seller is motivated. So very, very important. When you're planning to move, where are you moving? What are the reasons that you're moving? This is three important questions that you need to know. Before I move on, anybody has a question about what I just said about the three ways to find out the seller's motivation, the pre-qualification? Do you have any questions here? Okay, no questions. So very good. So let's continue. So the more information in advance, the more information we can obtain to get that. So we say that already. Let's move on. So now we spoke with the seller and we got the listing appointment. That's wonderful. So today is Monday and we have a listing appointment on Thursday afternoon. By the way, try to get all your listing appointments in the afternoon or in the evening. Okay, so basically you can be busy in trying to get the business during the day and doing that. Also, people's in the afternoon and in the evening they are a little bit less prone to be objective. So it's a good time. So we spoke with the seller. We have a meeting. Oh, wow, wonderful. So what do? We take our listing presentation and we mail it or deliver it to the seller. Okay. What does it mean, a non-ego listing presentation? It's a listing presentation that doesn't talk about you. Okay. Doesn't have to do about you. I've seen listing presentations that the agent talks about how beautiful she is, how wonderful he is, all these transactions they did, all the people they know, and so on and so on. No. The seller doesn't really care about that. It's okay to show maybe one page summary of the last transactions you did, but don't talk about yourself. You got to talk about the seller. They don't care about you. They care about themselves. So send a non-ego listing package to the seller. Now, why anybody can tell me, and you heard me saying that, most of you, why it's important to send a package to the seller? Why it's important? Anybody can tell me? Hello? Anybody here? Hello? Hello? Nobody. Okay, so basically the reason is that we sending it is that, oh yeah, okay, you get fantastic, Eden. So Eden helped me so many times. Yes, you get their objections in advance. So first of all, whatever you write, they have time to review it, okay? Because you're basically writing something and putting it together because this is something that's supposed to get you the listing. So you're sending this in advance. So why you have to deal with the objections in advance? Why you? It's not exactly dealing with it, but you will know. And in a few slides, I'll show you what exactly you need to do. So what inside that package? Okay, what is that in that package? I will deal with the objections in a second. Very good, Eden. So what should be in that package? A CMA with the actual list price that you actually pretending to list the home. So if you came up to the conclusion that the list price should be 575, you write 575. This is a suggested list price, okay? Another one is a net sheet with all the costs, including the commission. Don't be shy to put the commission. You know, I spoke with agent lately and they say, oh, we want to send them the listing package without the commission and without, listing agreement without the commission. I says, why? Because they are dealing with other agents. And I want to tell you something, and I want you to hear it, okay? If you're going to fight to get your listing on a base of who's cutting more commission, I promise you one thing, you're going to lose. Because there is always going to be somebody that's going to is going to knock you down on the commission. So even if you cut another 0.5%, there's going to be somebody who's going to cut another 25.25. There's always going to be something. So you need to show a value. If you're not going to be able to show a value, most probably it doesn't matter how much commission you're going to drop, they're not going to hire you. Now, a lot of you would not agree with me, which is fine, but because they're going to give me an example. But there is, for every rule, there is an exception to the rule. So there's always going to be an exception. There's going to be this seller that is only about money. He doesn't care. He doesn't care your name. He wants you to put it on the MLS and that's it. So he's going to go after your commission, and whatever you're going to do, it's not going to help. But in a general rule, because we live in the Los Angeles County, the San Bernardino County, the Riverside County. It's a big place. This is a country. This is not a city. This is a country with millions of people. There is plenty of business for you guys. If you're going to prospect everybody, you're going to be a prospecting machine. There's going to be enough sellers that are going to go with your value. Very simple. However, if you're going to sit down and wait for the business to come to you, that one Z seller is going to be all your life and you're going to be shuddered if they're not going to give it to you, the listing, and you will willing to give them anything they want in terms of commission. So that's the net sheet. All the disclosures, put it right there. All the disclosures, okay, and the contract. As I said before, fill up the contract completely. Don't be shy to put your commission. Put the selling side commission. Put the protection clause, which I talk on in a second, and put everything there. Okay, just put it and send it over. Okay, now let's talk about your CMA. I'll briefly try to touch it because I don't have much time. What's the do's and don't do about your CMA? So first of all, select the homes that's similar. Try to find a similar shape, size, and condition. The condition is very important because most of us do not look at the condition in the comps. We're looking for more or less the same square footage, more or less the same beds and baths. We don't look at the condition. It's so important that you compare apples to apple. Don't compare something that you see the pictures are not that great, and your prospect is almost brand new inside. I mean, fully remodeled. So you have to do that because people like to go into a turnkey project. Second, compare based on the square footage. The square footage is more important than the beds and baths, and that's the most important. I want you to remember that. So if you have variations, let's say in 2,000 square foot you have 4 bedrooms and you have 5 bedrooms, you have 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms. Always stick to the square footage. That's the most important factor that basically you can play with, because square footage you cannot touch. Beds and baths you can. It's easier to play with beds and baths. So actually beds, less than baths because the infrastructure of the plumbing. But if you have issues, always stick to the square footage. That's the anchor that you do your CMA. Okay. Now, as I mentioned before, try to stay apples to apples. When I said condition, also try to stay with the year built. What does it mean, the year built? It means that you don't want to have 30 years apart. Try to stick with the same amount because it's naturally affecting the condition of the property. So stay with this, okay? And talk about similarities. You know, if you have upgrades or condition, compare swimming pool to swimming pool. I see so many agents that don't do this investigation. They don't go, especially when they have a lot of homes in the area that you can do comparables. So if you see something that's similar in the size and the age, click inside and see the condition and see the amenities. See if they have pools, they have whatever, if the backyard is nice, and so on and so on. So try to have the similar amenities. The last but not the least is location. Location, location, location. You probably heard that. It's so important to the location. Many times will either make it or break it for the house to sell or not in the same street. So you might have the same same house across the street. One has a view and the other one's facing the neighbor. Definitely you cannot compare. It's not comparable. You have to give an appreciation for those who do have the view. Okay, so that's your CMA on a nutshell. So let's go back to our process. So we send the listing presentation, we send everything to the seller, and then that was Monday. So we put it on priority mail, which, by the way, is the best way to send anything. Priority mail documents, they have things that if you fit, it's shipped. You buy this envelope, it's cost $7.60 something, ship anywhere in the United States, and it's in Los Angeles it gets the next day, and parts outside of Los Angeles it gets 2 days. Very, very inexpensive way to ship documents. You get you get your signature, you get text messages when it gets there. So everything, I prefer to do it this way. FedEx and UPS, just it's way too pricey. So, and this you can conduct your business with no much of expenses. So you call back and confirm. Okay. So why are we calling back and confirming? We calling back and confirming. And for example, what do? You call in and he says, "Hi, Mrs. Jones, how are you? This is Rafi from Century 21. I just called because I sent you the package in priority mail and I wanted to see if you got it." "Oh, yes, wonderful. Did you have a chance to read it, Mrs. Jones?" "Yes, she had a chance to read it." "Okay, do you want to tell me anything that you saw over there that you want to ask me?" And then she asks you, "You know what? Why are you asking 6% commission?" Then you answer, "That's a great question, Mrs. Jones. As you know, commission is negotiable in the state of California. It's not set by law, but this is something I would love to talk to you about it when we see you on Thursday at 4 o'clock. Besides the commission, do you have anything else that you want to ask me?" "Yeah," and Mrs. Jones will tell you, "I think that you put 575. I think my house is worth 600,000. This is a great question, Mrs. Jones. You know what? I put my analysis based on the things that I saw, but your input is very important for me. Is that something that we can discuss on Thursday in our meeting?" "Oh, yeah, of course." "Okay, so I'm confirming a meeting for Thursday at 4 o'clock, and I'll be there. Thank you so much." How was my role play? Everybody like my role play? Come on, I want to see clapping. I want to see claps. Yes, Renee, that's it? Yeah, very good. Okay, so why did I do that? Because the seller just gave me 2 objections. That she's not surprising me. I know already 2 objections, the most important objections, the price and the commission. So I know how to prepare myself for the commission, okay, and for the for the selling price. So it's halfway in. I know what's the objection. Listen, think about this. And you know how to deal with the problem. Okay? The rest is all upon to you. Are you well prepared to deal with the objections? And how much practice you did to deal with the objection? And how persuasive you are? And how strong is your presentation about that? So remember, always don't be shy. If you want 100% process, you have to send to pre-qual, call and confirm, and while you're confirming, you ask about the objections. Everybody got that? Everybody got that? Yes or no? Okay, Ilmar says yes. So let's talk about the listing document. So here's the top of the listing documents, and that's I want to show you a few things. Now, things that I've seen, okay, things that I've seen. So we are very excited when we get to the moment that we have the seller tells you, "Okay, where should I sign?" One of the things that I saw is people making mistakes on the start and the end date. So if you're taking the listing for 6 months, try not to take less than that. For those of you who wants to give you the listing for 2 months, unless you know that the moment you put it outside and it's going to sell, that's going to be a problem. You're going to work for nothing because it takes longer today to sell a property. So I see people that putting a date and the end date is the same date. That means that you don't have a listing agreement. So it's very, very important. Okay. And it's very important to fill up also the APA number if there is a problem over there later on in a court. So start and date, put it there. Now, every time you write something, or it's written and written, which is okay to send a listing agreement to the seller. We say that we're sending it. It's okay not to put the dates because I'll tell you in a second why. Everything else you have to write. However, if in the listing, during the signing, you put it in handwriting, in script, the date, you have to make sure that the seller signs next to these dates. The moment you don't have that, the contract is invalid. Okay? The seller can always come and say, I didn't put this here. Okay? So unless it's written and it's part of the contract, you make sure that it's signed. The same thing applies to the purchase price. If they on the listing price, not the purchase price. If they change something or you put it in writing, you have to make sure that the seller signs it. As a general rule, Guy, I've seen this so many times, and because of these mistakes, we lost our position in the listing. If you have a situation that you need to put anything on the listing agreement in script, make sure that the seller signs it. It's so important. Okay. So listing price, I said it. You put it here. And over here, listing terms. Sometimes there are other things that you want to have anything over here. For example, if you agree that if the agents represent both sides, instead of 5%, it's going to 4%, you can put it over here. Okay, but make sure it's coherent. Now, one thing I saw, which is so important, agents agree to cut commission by 1% if the double end, but they write if broker holds both sides, commission will be 4%. That's a problem. That's a big problem because it's not a broker. You have to write if the agent holds both sides, it is 4%. Okay, not a broker. Huge difference. Huge difference between the two. Okay, so that's the place to write it. Okay, so that's our listing agreement, and let's talk about compensation. I see this too many times. Okay, the agreement, and I want you to understand the logic between everything. The differences. Nice to see you too. The differences between what you're getting to what is the total commission. Everybody in their mind thinks that the seller pays you like 2.5%, 3%. No, the seller pays you as the listing agent, and it's a good opportunity for you to open a listing agreement and look at the first page. It is 6% or 5% to you. You are giving some percentage to a selling side in case you advertise it on the MLS and so on, which I'll get it in a second. So you have to remember over here that I circle is the full commission. I can't even tell you how many listings agreement I've seen that the agents wrote 2.5%. What does it mean? And he wrote 2.5%, and I'll show you in a second where he writes about the listing side, the selling side, 2.5%. What does it leave to this listing agent? What does it leave to the listing agent? If over here we write 2.5%, zero. Armando says zero. Very good. Zero. You're going to work for nothing. You're going to get to the finish line, and you will have zero. Okay, and unless you have a very compassionate seller that will understand that, you will get zero. Okay, so remember that. Okay, so this is the place about cooperating broker, and here's the 2.5%. So over here is the 6%, and over here is the 2.5%. Now, I want you to remember something. Nobody says that if you have a 6%, you have to give to 3%, especially if you're doing a short sale. If you're doing a short sale, get the 6% off a 2.5% because you're doing more and above on top of listing the place. You're doing negotiation, so you should be compensated for something like that. Okay. However, if you get 6% and you want to give 3%, that's perfectly fine. And it most probably will bring more action into your property. Try not to be less than 2%. I mean, if you get 5%, try not to be less than 2%. because it will create a bad name for you between the agents. You don't want that. And one day it's going to bounce back to you. Okay? So let's continue. I don't have 5 minutes. The pictures. Okay? Guys, you have a listing. Somebody trusts you with the most important asset in their life. Get a professional photographer, for God's sake. Okay? Spend a few $100s. You can get professional photographer for $200 today. Okay? Get nice pictures with wide lens and so on and so on. It doesn't matter even if it's $300, $300,000 home. Don't do pictures with iPhone or something like that. Now, if you have to, let's say that you have to, okay, and you're really on a tight budget or whatever reason that I don't buy, okay, look at the difference. This is two condos right next to each other, okay, 281, 282. Both of them were on the market almost the same time. This is a nice, nice, as much as iPhone can do. Look at that, bright pictures and so on and so on. Look at this. Look at this, dark pictures, okay? Now, it's on the MLS, we're on the MLS at the same time. What happened? Okay, this one was sold for less than a week, okay? This one was sold for less than a week. This one, you know how long it took? It was on the market for 120 days. Now, you tell me if you serve your client right by taking these pictures, okay? And also, don't forget, the listing of today is the business of tomorrow. So when you're going to go to the next seller, what are you going to show him? These dark pictures like looks from some horror movie? No, you want to show them something that you can be proud of. Everything that you do, be proud of, okay? Let's move on to something else. Protection clause. That's a very important clause, guys. Everybody don't pay attention to this. On the first page of the contract, there is this, okay? It's empty. You have to put it there. What does it mean, a protection clause? Protection clause means something very, very simple. It means that if the listing expires or the listing cancel, you have X amount of days, 90, 180, that everybody that submitted an offer, sold the property in open house, where whatever it is, all the people in the list that you sent to the seller, within that amount of time will be yours. They will be yours, even though if another listing agent wrote the offer and sold the property, they will be yours. We had a situation with one of our agents in the Valley. They took a listing of $3 million. The previous agent sent the protection clause for, I don't remember how many days. The buyer before entered into contract with the seller, and our agent was stripped from all his commission, $3 million. So that's a very, very important clause. And again, it goes to the fact that we are running to write these contracts. Read the damn contracts. Study them. If you miss that, that could be your next money that you're not gonna get. Okay? Now, few other things that we want to have into the contract. The $495 mandatory compliance fee. I mean, it's negotiable. I'm talking right now on the offices in the Valley. It's not something we do in Downey and Upland. Some of them in Upland, but this is something we should imply because all the real estate offices pay that. This is covering the TC and future legal costs. So this is for the Valley, put it there, $495 mandatory compliance fee. Now also, if you have a list item, this is so important that you put it there. If you have a solar panel, or if you have an alarm system that it's part of the dwelling, okay, it's a feature, water softener, and it's a list, you have to put it there. You got to put it there because then when you're going to put it on the MLS, you want to take the information from here and put it on MLS. You're not going to put it on the MLS, we're going to have a problem. Okay, I'm almost done. Almost done. Seller instructions. Okay, remember I said about the date over there? So the date, if we start today, we have 2 days to put it on the MLS. Okay, 2 days to put it on the MLS. If we don't, it's a violation. So now we have 2 ways to, and let's say that the seller is not ready. This is ready in 2 weeks. So we have 2 ways. We have one way is to complete this form to exclude from the MLS, and we can complete one of these over here. And the other one is to put a later date on our listing agreement. Now, there is pros and cons on each one. If we put the exemption from the MLS, we have to submit it right away to the MLS, the listing agreement and the exclusion. The MLS lock this as our listing, but when we put it on the MLS, it's going to show the original date, So it's going to be like 10 days, 20 days, whatever days that is going to show the date that you put it on the market, it shows that date. So that's going to protect us, okay? What we can do is you can send it to the MLS, but then when you're ready, you go back to the seller and says, okay, let's sign a new listing agreement with the date of today, so we're not going to have anything starts backdated. The other option, as I show you before on the dates, is that we write a date in the future. Starting date is the date in the future. Now, which the MLS will take it from that date. The only con about it is that somebody can sneak in, get a listing agreement, and sell it, or sell it without the listing agreement, or buy it without the listing agreement, and you're going to be stripped from your commission. So choose the two. I prefer do the exemption from the MLS, then go back to the seller and redo a new listing agreement. So that's a very, very important. Okay. Now, the last but not the least, if you see a seller that doesn't want to give you exclusivity from whatever reason, maybe because of experience, because of whatever, what you need to do is get something that commits you to get it, the commission, and it's an open. Open basically means that it's not exclusive, especially if you have a buyer or you think that you will be able to bring a buyer on this property. By the way, you can have an open and put it on the MLS. Okay, now the seller can give you and many other agents the same listing open agreement. So, but there's going to be only one on the MLS. So the first one who's going to run to the MLS and put it, even as an open, is the one that's going to be on the MLS. That's it, guys. So remember, controlling the listing is controlling your destiny. That's it. Any questions? Any other questions? Okay.